welcome back to my channel. So since it's getting close to Halloween, I thought I would go ahead and do a story time. This is not one of the typical story times where it's like my house is haunted or there was a ghost or something like that. This is actually something that really happened to me, and I just wanted to bring this video up to raise awareness that women and actually anybody in general, we need to be, more aware of our surroundings and pay attention. And thankfully, I am that type of person who I'm always paying attention to who's around me, what's around me. Even when I'm driving in my car, I'm constantly looking in my mirror, who's behind me, looking to the side, who's next to me, things like that. I just pay attention to things like that. I don't know, maybe it's because I'm a crime junkie or I'm addicted to crime shows and things like that. But I've always been that type of person since I was young. So I'm just going to go ahead and get started. So basically, I was around 19 years old, and I had went to the store, and I was in it was a very crowded, popular shopping center, and there were multiple stores and things there. And I was coming out of the store and getting in my car to leave and go home. And as I'm pulling out of the parking lot and leaving, I noticed there's a white pickup truck behind me. And I'm like, whatever, I don't pay attention to that. Like, okay, somebody's behind me right now. But the thing that caught my attention was it was like, it was a lifted truck, so it was higher than usual, and stuff like that. So it kind of like caught my attention more, I guess you would say, because of that. But anyway, so I'm driving out of the parking lot to go home, and I noticed that there's several ways you can get out of this parking lot. I think it's 3 or 4 different locations and different streets that you can get out of this parking lot from. And so I chose one that, most people don't usually go out from. And I noticed that the truck went the same way as me. I'm like, okay. So I turned my blinker on to go right, because I was headed towards the freeway, and the truck did the same thing. So I'm driving through town, I'm stopping at the stoplights, before I get to the freeway, and the truck is still behind me. I'm like, okay. And by the way, the shopping center was sort of far from the freeway, but it's not uncommon for people to be on that street and go to the freeway from that shopping center, because it's more popular, like, where you get on the freeway. So I wasn't like totally alarmed at that point, but it was like he was just like staying really close to me. So I was kind of just kept paying attention, and every time I'd look in my rearview mirror, he would like turn his head, and he was wearing like a baseball cap, and he was an older white gentleman. I will say probably mid 40s to late 40s, and he was wearing a baseball cap. But every time I'd like glance in my mirror, he would like turn his head, turn away. I'm like, okay, that's weird. Anyway, so I get on the freeway. He's behind me, obviously still. So I'm like, okay. So I turn my blinker on. I go into the left lane to go to the middle lane. And he does the same thing. I'm like, okay. Which is not uncommon. Obviously, you get on the freeway in the slow lane and then you might want to merge over, right? Okay, that's not that big of a deal. But the way he was like so close to me and just kept following me, and so I just kept along on the freeway, just seeing what was going on, just kept going. And I noticed that he just kept getting closer and closer to my car, and I'm like, what the hell, like, this guy's creeping me out, right? So I just like decided to like mess with him a little bit to see if he was gonna do what I did. So I like got back into, I like sped up, got into a car that was next to me. I got in front of them and back into the right lane, the slow lane. And he did the same thing. Like, okay, like, wow. So then finally I'm like, okay, I'm gonna take this next exit. I'm gonna go off. And so what I wanted to do was to trick him out though. So what I did is I pretended like I wasn't gonna go over. I didn't turn my blinker on or anything. And I just kept going straight, and like as if I was gonna pass the exit. Then at the last minute, I just swerved over to get off the freeway, like literally this last second that I had. And then he got over real quick behind me too, and I'm like, seriously? Okay. So then I'm like waiting after I get off the freeway. I'm waiting to turn right, and it's to go over the freeway overpass, and there's like a light at the next street, you know, right over the overpass. So I'm waiting there, and I kept looking in my mirror, and he kept turning his head, and then when I'd look away, he'd look back, and I'm like, okay, what's going on here? This guy, he's seriously creeping me out now. So basically, I get to the next light, I go over the overpass, I wait, and I decide, you know what, I'm not gonna go the same way I would go home, because I don't want this guy following me. So I made a right turn after the overpass, and so did he. So then the next residential street I came to, which I turned left down it, so did he. And I'm like, okay, he's really following me now, right? So at that point, I didn't know what to do. All I knew is that I wanted him to leave me alone and get away from me. So basically, at that time, I was driving, I'm not trying to say that I had like a fast car or anything, but I had a Mustang. And of course, it probably brought attention because it was bright, not bright red, but a deep red color. And it didn't help that the license plate the back license plate said erotic, exotic, and a little psychotic. Of course, I was young and stupid. Anyway, I removed that after this dude followed me. Anyway, so after I noticed he was still following me down a residential street and random streets I was turning on, I just decided to gun it. And so I just gunned it, and I was at the end of the street, and he was way back here, and he just decided, well, I guess she knows I'm following her, so he just turned around and left. And I was like, whew. So then I waited a few minutes. I went down some other streets, turned some weird ways so that he wouldn't like see me down and start following me again. And so he was gone, and I was relieved. And basically, I just wanted to, you know, tell you guys that it's very important to pay attention to what's going on around you. You never know when somebody's out to hurt you, or anything like that. And it's like, it can happen to anybody, and just pay attention, you know. If you ever notice that somebody's following you like that, the best thing that I can say for you is, obviously you don't want to desert yourself like into like a street where there's like nobody. You want to stay where people are. You know, you don't want to go down the same streets that you would go down to normally go where you were going, things like that, because you don't want that person to come back later and be able to figure out where you were by looking for your car. You want to go like down streets, obviously streets you know, because you don't want to go down and get yourself stuck in a street where you don't know and there ain't nobody around. So you want to go down streets that you know, just not streets that you normally go, like to get to and from where you're going. And the other thing is, like, if you're close to a police station, drive your butt to the police station and pull up right out front. I guarantee you they're going to keep driving and leave you alone. The other thing is you could also call 911 while you're driving, and you could say that somebody's following you, where you're at and all that stuff, and how they've been following you since whatever, you know, or since wherever. That will help too. But just always be aware of what's going on around you. Hope you guys like this story time, and I hope my tips can help you, or my story can help you to get yourself out of similar situations. Comment down below if you've actually had a weird similar situation where you noticed somebody was following you, or even worse, hopefully nothing worse, but I could have very well have turned into a victim, you know, but I really made that guy know, I know you're following me, you need to leave me alone, you know what I mean? And he did turn around and leave me alone. Thankfully, in a lot of cases that might not have happened either. He might have just sped up and started following me too. You just never know what that person's gonna do, no matter what you do. So always be safe, and I will see you guys in my next video. Please like and subscribe before leaving. Bye.